Oh. Oh. Welcome to Meaningful Mornings. In my travels, I have visited a Chinmay Mission Center where they have a large cooking area and eating area. And before you go into the kitchen, they have some malas or rosaries outside. And that you have to complete chanting a full mala or rosary before you go in to that kitchen to cook. And the messaging of this discipline is whatever energy you have, physical, metaphysical, is going to be infused into that food. And hundreds of people are going to eat that food, including vulnerable people like children. So this is a way to ensure quietude of mind. That is a lovely practice. I feel we should have malas outside of every room. Between going from the bedroom to the bathroom, mala. Garage to your car, another rosary you have to engage in. Let's do that together right now. I've already taught you about hasta japa, or meaningful repetition with your hands. Let's do that 18 times together. I am joy, 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 I am joy. Who are you? I am joy. I returned from living in our ashram at the end of 2007. And I began sharing what I learned in the ashram at the end of 2007. And I began sharing at the beginning of 2008. One of the first cities I started teaching in was Toronto. And I started a study group for young adults. And the study group grew. We started off with me and one other person. And then at one point, there must have been 30 or 40 young adults. And sometime after that, that study group shrunk to, let's say, 25. And those who stopped being part of the study group, I followed up with them. How come you're not joining our self-development study group? And they uniformly shared with me that this is not practical. And my polite and pointed response was, when are you not your mind? And they naturally stated, we're always our mind. So tell me, how is this study group not practical when all we do is engage in mind management? All we do is try to quieten our minds. What aspect is not practical? Carrying that over to what we're engaged in. We have made our default, we have a habit to make excuses for not practicing a science that is only valuable if practiced. And now Sri Krishna, in chapter 4, is sharing, you have, you are the offerer, the offering, and the offered. Why should you do all of this? Yajno ve Vishnu. Dedication is God. It is for God and it is to be felt as God. We will know we're engaged in this yajna if we complain less, blame less, annotate less. No excuses. This is how we build up to nitya. Nitya means perpetual. When do you want to be joyous? Partially or perpetually? I'm reading a portion of Puja Swami Chinmayananda's commentary. The mind can never function in a field which cannot be interpreted in terms of the 5 types of sense objects. Therefore, to make the mind non-receptive to the perceptions of the indriyas is a method by which one can gain a better poisoned life for purposes of meditation. I shared with all of you, these yajnas, these practices are to train us for contemplation, or chapter 6. I am checking in with all of you. Please ensure you have a copy of Puja Swami Chinmayananda's Holy Gita and that you're part of the reading that starts before I start to speak. These verses need to be reflected upon. Reflecting more on nitya before I get into the next verse. Some of you may think that I am a teacher of Bhagavad Gita through Meaningful Mornings. And factually, I suppose this is the case. But what I'm trying to point out here is that I can't make excuses to not be part of this workshop or class. Agreed? Then why can you? If a teacher can't make excuses, then why should a student be able to make an excuse? And I don't mean that in a judgy way, like I'm angry right now. I'm quite happy. Our kids are still sleeping. I don't know what kind of morning I'm having right now. But we have such ego to feel that others shouldn't make excuses, but we can make excuses. That is a anti-yajna mentality. In verse 28, 5 yajnas are given. You will notice as I flow through the first line only, there's too much content, that Sri Krishna has stopped referring to the offered to. He only identifies 5 offerings, but no more offered to. How come? Because he has the expectation that we figured out this framework now, that we are practicing, so he doesn't need to repeat again and again and again. Verse 28. This is a verse you should keep in your pocket to be ever conscious of this verse. Dravya yajnastato tapo yajnaha yoga yajnastata pare swadhyaya jnana yajnascha yataya samshita vrataha. The first quarter. Dravya yajnaha. The offering is dravya, which means materials. Tapo yajnaha. The offering is tapa, which means comfort. Yoga yajnaha. The offering is yoga, or development. Tata apare. And others, they follow such yajnas. These are yajnas 6, 7, and 8. We've gone through 5, 6, 7, and 8. I will elaborate. The 6th yajna I am naming Dravya Yajna, and in this framework, possessions are offered to discipline. The offered is not stated in what I just read to you, only the offering is stated. So what is to be presumed, what is to be inferred, we are offering this to discipline. The senses of action to discipline, the senses of perception to discipline, now the possessions to discipline. Our possessions are a means to peace. They are not the ends to peace. If you think of this more traditionally, artha is to lead or facilitate moksha. Artha is not moksha. So this sacrifice, the sacrificing or offering of possessions shows that you know that. What I have found in terms of materials or possessions is that instead of enjoying them, what do? We compare them. Just think of if you have a fancy car or a well-designed home. If no one ever saw them, would it be as meaningful to you? See what we do with possessions. It's about comparing instead of actually enjoying. If you have a fancy car, listen to the good sound system. If you have a well-designed home, walk around more. Your form or practice here, use fully. Use fully. Whenever I think of recycling, I always include as R0. The first R for us typically is reduce, correct? Then R2, then R3. R0 is refuse. Refuse. Even before you reduce, refuse to have any possession that you don't use. How will you train yourself to do that? The possessions you do have now, use them fully. That is a way to live Dravya Yajna. Next is Tapa Yajna. The 7th out of 12 is Tapa Yajna. And in our framework, the offering is the mind. What is the offered to again? Discipline. The offering is the mind. Why? We were born in tapa. Tapa literally means to burn. Why were we born in tapa? Because our body is burning away. From our first breath, we became closer to dying. Agreed? This body is perpetually burning. The Sanskrit words for body means that which perishes, that which burns. But what's burning us more than the body is our comfort zones. As soon as we step outside of our comfort zones, what happens to us? We start to burn. We get sweaty, we get panicky, and so on and so forth. So what Tapa Yajna is sacrificing that comfort zone. That is what is to be burned up. So that you feel more and more and more comfortable, irrespective of context. And I recently shared with a group of students, the finality of burning a comfort zone is that you have no zone. You have a comfort zone with yourself. There is no zone here. And a practical methodology to do this is to burn up likes and dislikes. This is what the mind is always revolving around. I'm comfortable with what I like. I'm uncomfortable with what I dislike. Burn those up. How? Here is your practice. It is choose discomfort. Choose discomfort. Whenever you have a choice to make between the more comfortable and the more uncomfortable, choose the uncomfortable choice, but make that comfortable. Make it comfortable. That's what tapa yajna is. And very briefly, let me introduce the third, which is yoga yajna. This is our 8th yajna. The offering is yoga. That seems quite strange. Here, in our framework, it is the intellect that is offered to discipline. The intellect is offered to discipline. How so? The yoga that we are training ourselves in, that we are practicing, is to go from the doer to the beer. Yes? Now tell me, where does the doer live? In the intellect. That ego first starts talking in the intellect and says, I am the doer. So the one who's practicing yoga, they're sacrificing the sense of deservership, then doership. Here is your practice. It is to enjoy instrumentship. Enjoy instrumentship. Right now, I'm stuck in doership. I have to evolve to beership. What's the transition? I am not a doer. I am the instrument. Enjoy being an instrument. When you're in second place, smile. When someone else takes the credit, be happy. Be thankful you got to be part of this rather than, oh, I didn't own this. Enjoy instrumentship. One of the greatest graces in my life is to be an instrument of my master. I never compare myself, which means I never compete with my master. We don't have such relationships in our lives. And it is most healthy and uplifting to enjoy instrumentship. I have so much to share on this one verse. We will continue tomorrow. From inspiration to application. Your application was to analyze and summarize this verse. How many of you tried? Lots of you did. If you're not connecting to Bhagavad Gita or chapter 4 or these practices, it's because you're not reflecting on them. I'm telling you in a most scriptural and experiential way, if you're not connecting, you're not reflecting. If you are reflecting, you will be connecting. So these rads are to encourage you to reflect more. Your application for this morning is to be part of Meaningful Mornings tomorrow. It is Thanksgiving. It really has started for many of you today. And I just shared a holiday from what? A holiday from Nitya. That is to be confused. You be part of Meaningful Mornings. If you're at someone's house, you find a corner of that house. If you're driving in a car, you do it in the car. Let your family be exposed to this. But you have to be part of Meaningful Mornings tomorrow. No excuses. All the Canadians are saying, awesome. We were already planning for this. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Be safe, be sound, be serene, be happiness.